Uh, Hello, Floyd Fp here. Just having a hangout to discuss my views on people who are lately doc dropping G-Man's name, and also all the recent posting of zombie Jesus pics for Easter. So I just thought I'd give my opinions on both. Um, I stood out with the G-Man doc dropping. Um, I basically think it's wrong. I don't think we should do it. Um, it's disrespectful. It's not courteous. I don't think it helps the situation. Um, whoever whoever wants to be called whatever, we should respect that and call them names. Despite um, he could have posted his name before and so forth, but the thing is now he doesn't want people to use his name. So we should show respect and not um, use his name. If he wants to be called G-Man, we should call him G-Man. If tomorrow he says, I want everyone to start calling me Super G, then we should start calling him Super G. We should respect that and be courteous. We shouldn't drive the guy crazy. None of us would want our names said on air and so forth. So I think we should show the same courtesy to anyone, regardless of who that person is, and just respect their wishes. So that's how I feel about all the G-Man doc dropping. As far as the all the Jesus zombie pictures that have been posted for Easter, um, I'm not against criticizing bad arguments or bad ideas. I'm not against ridiculing uh, uh, bad arguments or bad ideas. I think that's okay, and I certainly don't believe in censorship. So people should be free to post those sort of pictures that, if they like, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think it doesn't help in the great debate. It's basically a straw man. No Christian thinks Jesus was resurrected as a mindless zombie with decaying flesh and so forth. Um, the Bible speaks of the resurrected body being a glorified body, not a mindless, decaying zombie type um, body. Again, I think it's okay to ridicule at times, and I think we certainly should not censor those pictures. But I just don't think it's helpful in the great debate. And I think we're better off just dealing with the arguments and debate the resurrection, debate what it implies, debate the story of Matthew, where all the saints are resurrected and march into Jerusalem. I think those are all worthy things to talk about. But it's just to depict Jesus, as a mindless zombie. I really don't think that helps. Um, so I think we should all try to work together. Both sides. We should not try to create a us versus them mentality. And we should work on what unifies us. And I think what unifies us is our love of humanity and our desire for well-being. So I think our ultimate goal should be that. Um, so those are my opinions on the G-Man doc dropping and the whole zombie Jesus posting pic. So I'll just open it up to the panel at this point and just get your guys' opinion. What do you guys think?
Can I go first, so that's okay?
Sure.
I think regarding the G-Man thing, okay, maybe it is. There does come to a point where it might be too. There might be a line that might be crossed where if you constantly are trying to drop him to irritate him, maybe that is wrong. But there's also more background to it. I mean, the reason why this keeps getting brought up is because he made such a big deal about it the two times that he supposedly was doc dropped. Now, based on what I've heard and what I've seen, his name was public out there, and at this point, just because he flipped out those two times where his name sort of became public knowledge, it's easier to sort of then if he's going to act like that, then more people are going to they're gonna say his name more often because they know it irritates him, because they know because they want to goad him a little bit, and I think that's part of it. So you can't really, I don't think you can really blame people for wanting to act out that way towards him, especially if he's not showing a good behavior. But at the same time, I also think that we shouldn't try to be as bad as him. I would just say if someone's obnoxious, be better than them.
Yeah, we should try to raise the bar. I mean, we're all adults here. Um, you know, we should try to get along. There's no need to have a us versus them mentality. If someone doesn't want to be called something, don't call them that. I mean, just show respect. I don't care who he is. How if you disagree with G-Man or he's not thinking properly or his fallacious arguments, just bring that up. Show his arguments are fallacious and so forth. If I make a dumb argument, I want people to come up to me and say, Floyd, you're affirming the consequent, or you're ad hom, or your argument's circular, or whatever. We should all try to help each other, regardless on what side we're on.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Well,
for a pizza?
I have to,
A pizza? I'm sorry.
I have to go get my food in a second here.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to weigh in real quick. Okay, for the whole G-Man doc dropping thing first off. All right, well, I'll start off with the zombie Jesus meme thing, whatever. It's pointless. I don't. The memes, you see them, chuckle, whatever. It's great, but my wall's been flooded with them. It's a little bit overkill now. I don't see the need to constantly post that, because it is a complete straw man. It's no Christian's it does think that, and I know it just kind of illustrates the ridiculousness of a position that we think they hold, but it's not an actual position that they hold, so it's pointless. Don't do it. If you want to, great. Just to mock religion. If your only goal here is just to mock, then yeah, fine. If that's the avenue you have to take, then I don't support it. But I'm not going to stop people from doing it. For the G-Man dog dropping thing, let's be clear on this one. G-Man wasn't dog dropped. Okay, in that situation. Now, I agree with Floyd and everything that Floyd said, that if he doesn't want to be called by his real name, if he has a handle that he comes on here, that he does his videos on, that's what we should address him with. That's what I address him as. I mean, I know most of the people here probably do that. But he wasn't dock dropped. He made a mistake, and like JD Kane had pointed out, it's a big red button now for people that want to irritate him. Now, most people shouldn't want to irritate somebody just for the sake of irritating them, and in most cases, I don't support people doing that. When it comes to specific cases, I'll speak candidly about this, like with Alex Botten. I completely support Alex Botten in his constant use of G-Man's real name, because G-Man did lie and try to spread rumors about Alex Botten and his marital relations. He took it personal. And until G-Man does, actually, grows up and does a proper apology to Alex and says, hey, listen, you know what, I said that. It was a stupid thing for me to say. I apologize. I'm sure Alex will stop, using G-Man's full name all the time.
Yeah, but
Wait a minute. I mean, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to make one quick response. Yeah, I don't mind Alex Botten retaliating towards G-Man, but I think he did cross the line a little bit a couple nights ago. I mean, he made a hangout on air where he showed a private Skype conversation going on between him and G-Man. I actually think that's crossing the line. There is, that is private information that should not be leaked out to the public.
Well, no, technically it's not private information. I mean, anything can be, put out there.
Sure, well, I think
I mean,
wait a minute.
There might be kind of a certain kind of implied type of idea that you do have some privacy there, but there's no mutual agreement between the two that you think that they're going to completely respect that. And again, in that situation, the first person to bring to light private conversations between Alex and G-Man was G-Man when he said that Cat threatened to kill him, and brought up the stuff inside the private message. That's why the first private messages ever released by Alex was to show why that came out.
I mean, to me, I want to chime in here. Okay, this sounds like two kids in a playground fighting. Two wrongs don't make a right. I don't care what
Yeah.
G-Man does, and whether or not the technicality here is that something is public just because we do it on air. A little common sense here could rule. Okay, we know that if somebody has a hangout that they don't put on public air, they don't intend for it to be public, or they would have done that. We understand that it doesn't matter what the legality of it is. I think to take something that was a private conversation, and I didn't even see this, but to take something that was a conversation between two individuals offline and post it on air without asking the other person, I think is just irresponsible and childish. And I see a lot of this, and I'll say names too, and I might take some heat for this, but I see the not the Brett Keane. Who was the other guy that had problems in England, that had the emotional problems, that was driving Fiona crazy for a while?
Jason Burns? Or?
Jason Burns, thank you. I see people. I'm sorry, and I like Fiona a lot, but I see Fiona and I'll see sorry, who you just mentioned. My brain's kind of fried here. But I'll see these people complaining about G-Man and complaining about the other ones, and then chasing them, and then going into their hangouts. You know what? If you don't like the way somebody behaves, and if you don't think they contribute anything to the argument, then one has to really wonder why you keep having them in your hangout. Then go the other way and be done with it, and do something productive. I think there is. I think there's a lot of childishness that goes on. If G-Man calls me a name, okay, he calls me a name. That doesn't justify me calling him one. I mean, this is playground mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to take the high road. We're all adults here. And we don't want to this shouldn't affect our private lives and our professional lives. I mean, for me, this is fun. This is a hangout, right? This is how I spend my free time. I enjoy talking. I love to talk about religion and stuff. This should not get to a point where you're causing people pain in their private life. It could affect their jobs and so forth. I mean, those are real life consequences. And for me, the internet, this community is kind of like is an opportunity to kind of get away from real life and just hang out and enjoy being with people. So. Again, we need to take the high road here.
I have one last thing to say before I actually gotta leave and go get some dinner here. But this is about the you're right. You should take the high road. You should try to you should try not, if somebody bothers you, block them, ignore them, whatever. G-Man has the wrestling, what is it, WWE style of, I'm calling this person out. He can't do 3 videos without calling somebody out there. He's very rude and very arrogant in the way that he does this stuff, and he shouldn't be surprised when he crosses somebody and this is the reply he gets. He's the architect of his own misfortune.
No, I don't agree with that at all. Look, I mean, G-Man has said a lot of things that are, to me, that I found offensive, but, whatever. I blocked him after like the third or fourth time. I didn't feel, I mean, I figured out what his real name was. I mean, and I didn't decide like, oh man, I'm really upset that G-Man said I wasn't a true Christian. I had time to go, post his info or something all over his videos, or make my own videos doing so. I mean, there's a reason people have these sort of I don't know, nom de cybers, I guess, right? We use pseudonyms because we don't want our real name necessarily attached to everything that we say on GoogleTube. And also, I'd add there's a certain permanence to what occurs on these. There's a reason I tend to not go into live hangouts as much, is because I don't like having everything I say exist forever in cyberspace.
And I'm not. Listen, this is my sort of the last thing now. I'm not saying that that everything in this is that one side is more right than the other. That at any given time, either of them can get up and just walk away, just ignore the other one. But there's a personality clash that's happening right now. And until one of them gets up and steps away, then it's going to keep on happening.
Yeah, well, I'm not actually that interested in like the particulars of the latest G-Man drama. I was more interested in just like the general idea of doc dropping and
in general. And I just wanted to chime in and sort of on the record say I agree with Floyd that there's really no excuse to ever do it. It doesn't matter how obnoxious someone is or how abrasive they are or how bad their arguments are or anything. It's just uncalled for. So yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, again, we should try to elevate each other, not bring each other down. If someone wants to do the WWE stuff, that's great. I find it entertaining. I like Rand Campbell's videos. I think they're funny. I kind of understand his mindset, believe it or not. But it doesn't mean we have to go there and turn things into a war. I guess if you want to do that, you're welcome to it. But I just don't think it's a good idea. Ultimately, someone's going to get hurt, and there's enough trouble in this world. We shouldn't create any more. Again, if someone wants to be called whatever, if G-Man wants to be called Super G from now on, we should call him Super G, whatever he wants. We should just simply respect that and not make people's lives miserable. So.
Yeah, I don't even know what G-Man's real name is. Please don't anybody tell me. I don't want to know. But I have to agree with Floyd and John in saying it's, and I've been saying this for a while, and I kind of got slammed for it when I first came out and said this. Kind of the same thing that Floyd's saying, and I don't understand this. I really don't. We had a conversation, for example, the other night with Roy Montero. Everybody knows Roy. Nice guy, but sometimes can be overbearing, and. I don't know if it was a conclusion, but one of the things we came to, we said, look, I said, people come into Hangouts for different reasons. And I told him, I said, I think that's why, for example, you seem to get a lot of friction in your Hangouts, is that a lot of people come into a Hangout to put ideas on the table, to discuss them, to evaluate them, maybe to have a little fun in the process. And that's one thing. I said, but I get the distinct sense, for example, I said, Roy, I said, with you, I think you come into the Hangout and you believe that the Hangout is there as a pulpit, as a way to preach to people. And I said, and I think that that's where you get, this conflict, because there are people with two different goals in mind. And the point of this, I guess, is to say that I think that there are people like G-Man and Randcam and maybe Nephilim and a few others who I think have Hangouts for yet a third purpose, which maybe is simply sort of like the Jerry Springer show. They simply want an audience. They want to create an audience. They want to create a viewership, and sometimes they'll do bizarre, stupid, asinine things to get that. I think if that is the kind of thing that is going to trigger you into sort of this vengeful retribution, then really stay out of those. Then stay out of those Hangouts. Again, this is the part that sort of confounds me. Is it seems that if something bothers you so much that it's driving you to the point of putting G-Man's real name out there or doing something else like that, then why not just avoid the Hangout entirely? Maybe it means you block G-Man. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you just don't voluntarily go into a room where he is. It seems like that's the common sense way out. But again, that's just, everybody doesn't do it the same way, I guess. Thanks for letting me wander there. Mm-hmm. I don't know his name by now, Aaron. Sorry, buddy. Don't put it up. I never actually heard it anywhere.
I mean, I think both of these issues, both G-Man doc dropping and the Zombie Jesus, sort of have a lot to do with freedom of speech. I think the right to remain behind a veil of anonymity online gives us the freedom a lot of times to speak our minds in a more complete way than we would if our real identities were tied so tightly to our online personas. And I think it's the same with G-Man. I think he's worried that what he says online will come back to haunt him. I think if we really value freedom of speech, we need to give him that space, and that requires us to respect however much or little he wants to associate his real name with his online avatar. And I think it goes the other way for me with the Zombie Jesus. I think zombies are popular right now. It's pretty much a meme within pop culture that is very popular. So I mean, it's not exactly like it's something out of the ordinary or not relevant to today's time. And I think drawing an analogy between someone coming back to life, or coming back from the dead and zombies, is not necessarily an illegitimate analogy, right? I think there are ways that can be accurate, and I think that it's also a way of popularizing a message about the very thing that we're talking about here, which is resurrection from the dead. So I think it doesn't necessarily harm the dialogue unless it's used inappropriately, but I think even inappropriate use needs to be protected by free speech rights. And if you don't like it, turn away or mute the post. I mean, there's no real two ways about it. And I don't think we should tell people that they shouldn't post it. But I mean, at the same time, I take on what you guys are saying. I mean, it's really about our moral responsibility to the other person we're talking to. And if Zombie Jesus is necessarily going to turn that person off, then we need to think about not proceeding with those sort of actions.
Right. I just don't think it's helpful. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're not involved in hangouts and so forth, I guess you can do a hit and run, so to speak. But I want to have conversations with Christians. I want to work with them. I want to have good dialogue with them. I want to have good debates with them. I want to try to have an understanding with them, and hopefully we can learn off of each other. But if you're doing the zombie Jesus stuff and just attacking people, that's not going to happen.
Right. But I mean, I think sometimes these things aren't necessarily attacks on people, but attacks on ideas that they've actively rejected. And so it's more of a cathartic thing, an expression of frustration or angst that they feel personally against a belief, rather than an accurate expression of the problems they have with that religion. And I think we need to be mindful that we don't quash those sort of things simply because they appear offensive to some viewers. I mean, that's not really the gauge by which we measure what's appropriate free speech and not, is offense caused. That if that's the gauge, then we're doomed to losing what little free speech we have left.
Yeah, I like I said before, I don't believe in censorship. Anyone should have the right to do that. I love like Side 10 atheist videos and stuff like that. I think ridicule and parody has its place. But if if you want to have a good community here and have good discussions with the other side, this is not the way to do it.
I agree. I think if dialogue is your goal, there has to be this level of mutual respect that each conversation is approached with, and doing those sort of things doesn't encourage that. So, I agree that if dialogue is the goal, and productive dialogue especially, that should be the way we proceed. But I would say that it's not for everybody online here to have that goal, and it's not necessarily right that they all share the same goals that we do. So it's I worry about quashing those people's voices, but at the same time, I agree with you. Dialogue requires this back forth respect that really starts. It really starts with us being respectful to the person we're talking to.
Yeah. Any Christians want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, going with the theme of the hangout, I agree with you, Floyd. I mean, me and you obviously have our differences, but I'd like to think that, I don't know, man. I see like extremes on both ends. I see like the atheists that I like talking to, and I see I can name a few of them who are actually in this room right now. But then there's some atheists, obviously, that are a little aggressive and don't really respect my beliefs as far as that goes. And there's also Christians who are attacking atheists, which I don't agree with. I don't think making videos and parodying and all this stuff is cool. I'd like to see kind of like an evolved, if I can use the word, like an evolved mentality where we bring the conversations on neutral ground, kind of looking at it from the sidelines, looking inward on the issue that we're discussing, not with any inherent angst for the other person or resorting to name calling and all that stuff. I don't know, man. I'm with you on that. I don't understand why there's so much hostility on here. Well, I mean, I guess I do, but at the same time, I don't think there's any need for it. Not for a productive conversation. Cordial conversation is possible, but when feelings get involved and mudslinging happens, you've lost the conversation at that point.
Yeah. You want
I think,
to? Yeah, go ahead, Fiona.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think it's possible to have a dialogue when we go down that road because it becomes far too heated.
Yeah.
Am I
And
going to have a good conversation with somebody who is posting memes like that? There's going to be no communication whatsoever. And I'd like to just mention one thing about the other topic that you brought up, the dock dropping of G-Man. As somebody said, he wasn't dock dropped. And in fact, the times that his name started being used was at both times after he spewed out false accusations that he had been dock dropped and named the supposed dock dropper. I think that actually changes it slightly. I mean, I stick with the name G-Man, that's it. But when he falsely accuses someone of dock dropping him when they haven't, then really that is the sort of retaliation that is going to happen. And he's now done it not once, but twice.
I don't think that really changes anything. I don't. That's neither here nor there, really. I mean, let's face it. He's a really forgetful guy, and I don't think he actually thinks at all before he speaks. So, the fact that he dock dropped himself in some older video that had to do with a marathon or something, like, I don't see why this is such a. If someone doesn't want their real name to be used, then people just shouldn't use it. I don't see why people need to find these weird like technicalities, like, oh well, in this other video, it doesn't matter if he could have
No,
demanded everyone
that's not what I'm
address him by
saying.
his full name in every video prior to yesterday. And if people don't want that to happen, then don't do it. And I don't. I mean, to me, this seems like such a cut and dried, open and shut thing.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably proud that he did the marathon. He wanted to share that with people, and to do that, he had to give his name.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wasn't thinking, and then everyone started to use his name, but again, if he says don't do it, don't do it. It doesn't matter if he was
No, I mean, I just
doc
like to
drop or
clear,
not. It
let's
doesn't
clear
matter.
the timeline up on this. I think the timeline's important because nobody had actually used his name in public at all until he decided to accuse someone of dock dropping him. And so, to defend themselves against that accusation, they ended up in the hangout where the marathon video was played back to prove that G-Man had said his own name because he denied ever having said it. And he was accusing someone of having done some form of internet stalking to find it out. He denied that that video existed. Now, obviously, the person who was being accused of this was not best pleased because it was a completely false accusation. Now, given that that was then busted wide open when the marathon video was played back in a hangout and everybody heard G-Man say his own name, which proved that the accusation against this other person was false, you can understand why there's a bit of bad feeling. For him to then resurrect these accusations again, while still having on his channel the hangout in which the video was played back, and you can hear him use his name again, when he's busy saying he's going to flag any channel that uses his name, and it's on his own channel. But he's still throwing out these accusations that a certain person went behind the scenes, found out all this information, and deliberately dock dropped him. And that was not true. It's the false accusations that have actually prompted this.
Well, I think we forget a little bit of the timeline because one of the big things that really caused this was when I can't remember now who it was typed G-Man's name in this private chat,
Yes.
and G-Man lost it. Now, he could have just been like, "Hey, man, that's not cool. Don't use my name." Like, he could have been really, really polite about it. And you know what? Everyone on that panel program like, "Yeah, that's bullshit. Don't use his name even in the private chat." But instead, he starts going, "Oh, he's doc dropping me," and he derailed the entire conversation. Like, they ended up going on about it for like 2 hours.
Yeah, and the other problem is he threatened to flag that hangout.
And so you know what?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, he did do that. And so what JD Kane did on Talking Shit Tuesday, yes, you know what? He probably shouldn't have done that. But it was a reaction to G-Man blowing something that wasn't a big deal and turning it into this huge drama thing like he usually does. Now, we need to start learning to stop playing into G-Man's drama llama shit, but like we can't just be like, well, it was horrible that JD Kane did this, or this happened, or the reaction that happened afterwards, which I'll admit I was part.
Was that Jared that went silent, or have I hung?
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Looks like his internet just took a shitter on him.
But yeah, I mean, this actually goes back to July 2014. This is when it all began. When the false accusation was first made that someone had hunted out his information and then doc dropped him. When the person had never actually said the name on air or in any comments.
Yeah, I guess something slightly off topic, but I guess to encourage good dialogue and good debate, I recommend trying to use the Socratic method. I mean, I try to use that a lot. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically you just ask a lot of questions, and you ask questions, and if you think they're wrong, eventually they'll argue themselves into a contradiction. And then at that point, you have cognitive dissonance, and they have to deal with it. I think it's one of the most effective ways to debate. And basically, you can play dumb. You can say, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I forget. I think it was Denzel Washington said that in the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks. I remember that. I think he played a lawyer, and he always made that statement. I think that's a good thing. And also to do that, to effectively do the Socratic method, it's also very helpful to understand the other side. And that requires some work. That requires some study. That requires, learning their position, studying their position a little, reading a little bit of the material they would read to get a good understanding. And from there, you can find holes, and also you'll ask more educated questions. There's a saying: a lawyer knows the answer before he asks the question. And in a good debate, you can do the same thing. You can ask questions, knowing how the person's going to answer, and then you have 2 or 3 follow-up questions, which may lead them down to a contradiction. So. It's a good debate strategy, but also it requires you to actually learn their side, not create a straw man, and actually get some real decent results. But again, it requires more effort, it requires more time, it requires more understanding, and again, it takes effort. It takes effort to really do that.
I think I heard or saw somebody mention that the debate is over and done with, and there is nothing to talk about, and that saddens me because there are many things that come from this debate that affect all of us, whether it's attempting to keep government secular, attempting to keep creationism out of a science class. So there's plenty to be discussed on the subject, and it's sad to hear someone say that there is no conversation to be had.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many creationists who still don't understand evolution. I mean, it goes on and on. You think they would just break open a biology book, or there's plenty of free resources on the internet just to get a basic understanding of evolution and so forth. I mean, some people try to make the effort to learn it, but others just still just don't get it. Just make obvious blunders in describing it.
Well, I think, and I'm not trying to be uncharitable, but I think to some extent, Fiona, that whoever made that comment, I think in some ways they were onto something. Because I know I feel, and I'm not trying to set myself up as sort of holier than thou, but I do feel in a lot of conversations there are people, they have no intention of trying to learn anything. They have no intention of examining what they think on any issue, whether it be religious, political, or otherwise. I think there are a lot of people that come into the Hangout in full persuasion that they are absolutely right. And I think on top of that, and this is sort of the icing on the cake, that they cannot possibly be wrong, that there is nothing that anybody could show them that could ever undermine them, because they are in possession of a universal or absolute or immutable truth. And I think the conversation is over with those people. Because I don't see it. I don't see how it can go anywhere when you start off with that level of presumption. It's one thing to think I'm right. I think everybody thinks they're right, or they wouldn't hold the beliefs they do. But I think it's a whole nother ball of wax to add that other layer that says that this is an immutable truth that I hold, and nobody could show me wrong, and no matter what they show me, it must be incorrect because I know I'm right. I mean, when you add that, what kind of dialogue can you have?
Yeah, there is that, but also I would say that one of the important things is it's not so much the person that you're speaking to in the Hangout, but the people who may be watching it.
Yeah, it's rare that these kind of comments.
I think people. It's interesting, that people can't attack the premise or the contention and separate that from the person. It's still a human being. This is a person who has their beliefs. They may be flawed. They may be wrong. But what you're trying to expose is what it is that they're holding on to. It's not necessarily the person themselves. They could be deceived, right? So. Like Floyd said, ask questions, get them to explain what it is they understand. I think that really is the best way. But, getting mad because somebody else doesn't, you hold something to be true and they don't. But that's not something to get upset over. It just means that they don't agree with you. We can't force our conclusions on people. We all have our beliefs, but we got to disassociate the belief with the person. To some extent, what I'm saying is that they are not the belief. They are a person who holds to a belief. And if you don't like that belief, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to dislike the person. I don't know. Does that make sense, guys?
At least for me, in peripheral. I mean, I think I would, and you and I have had some good conversations. I think, yeah, I would agree with that, certainly. I think that just because I disagree with someone's conclusions, that doesn't translate to the person as far as how I feel about them. Because we get into a heated argument about how we get to those conclusions, that doesn't make me dislike the person at all. Because again, we're talking about ideas here, and if you're passionate, you're going to have heated arguments. I think that's fine. But when I think the person starts acting like an ass, especially when I think they're acting like an ass intentionally, that definitely translates to the person. That will definitely make me not like you, because that's no longer about ideas. That's no longer about having dialogue. This is a personality trait that is you And that is exactly the kind of thing that would make me dislike you as an individual.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, because my mic wasn't working earlier. I have nothing to add. Go on.
I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I was hoping for a little feedback there. I mean, do you see where I'm trying to draw the line?
Absolutely, dude. If I had like if I had a list of like the atheists on here, right, that I personally would rather engage with, right? Like I actually prefer to engage with them. I could pick you, Floyd. I think Sokka's an atheist. I've never actually asked him. I think he is, but like I could, people that I can have. Even Alex Botten. Thank you, Sokka. I had a great conversation with him, and everybody's like telling me how this guy is like basically just he's gonna it's gonna be this terrible conversation. I had a great conversation with Alex Botten of all people, and I have nothing bad to say about him. He was very respectful, cordial. We had a productive conversation. I think that me and him, obviously we don't fundamentally agree on some things, but then again, I didn't go into it thinking that this is some terrible evil person. I didn't want to have any presuppositions about his character, but he also didn't give me any reason to think that either. But it's how we approach each other, and by not associating that person with their belief and tying them inexplicably together, because what we're trying to do is provide information for them to come out of that belief. If we think that they're holding a fallible belief, then what we're trying to do is actually help that person, or at least that's what I would perceive us to be doing, is trying to bring the other person to our way of thinking. But there's only one way to do that, and you can't track flies with vinegar. I mean, you're supposed to use honey for that, right? So be cool with people, be nice, have polite conversation. When you're, we're all guilty of it at some point. We get our emotions get going, but people can sense when your pride or your ego is getting in the way, and you start talking kind of like you taking little jabs here and there, or being passive aggressive. Those kind of things intimidate people, and it just builds that wall between you and them, and you've kind of lost at that point. There's no point in even trying to continue, until the other person cools down, or
Yeah, we're okay there. I am anyway.
Yeah. Well, it also like the problem with some of these people that we can agree are not there to argue is that they truly believe that because we're atheists, we're horrible people, just by definition. So it's hard to have a real conversation with someone who just thinks you're a horrible person by definition.
Well, let's not forget the other side of that, because we pretty much think all Christians are stupid. So
what?
I wouldn't say that.
No, but I'm just saying.
I know.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying there are atheists that feel the same way toward feel that toward the Christians. So they kind of start the conversation at a deficit.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Oh no, we have idiots on both sides. That's not like we have people who believe ridiculous things of the other side on both sides. Like that. We're humans. Hi. We all belong to the same species. Therefore, we all have the same flaws.
Yeah. I hear you. No. I'm sorry. I just pulling your leg there a little bit.
I know.
Something here.
I like to play along when people are pulling my leg.
I think one thing that is very important to remember here is that everybody has a limit to their patience. And I don't know how many of you have been on the receiving end of months and months and months of lies and false accusations. And eventually you reach the end of your patience. And I think that has to be borne in mind.
Fiona, here's the piece to that I don't get, and maybe you can help me with this. And I kind of mentioned it, I think, before you came in the room. And that is that it seems to me, and maybe I'm just missing something here, but the picture that I see quite often is that the people who are angry at other people online for doing certain things also seem to be the ones that continually engage with these other people in terms of hangouts, and so it seems to be like a self-fueling fire. It's instead of going it seems instead of going the other way and extricating themselves from the situation and not even talking or relating to that person at all, and sort of putting a divide between you, it seems like two moths to a flame.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just chime in really quickly, Fiona, you can
When's
just.
the last time you saw me in a G-Man hangout?
I'm sorry, what's that, Fiona?
When's the last time you saw me in a G-Man hangout?
Well, I haven't. I don't. That's because I don't go into G-Man hangouts. but I get your point.
For what it's worth, Fiona, I mean, G-Man, if you watch his older videos from 4, 5, 6 months ago, he used to call out me and Gambler and Gretchen all the time, and
yeah.
Eventually we just decided that he's not really someone that we want to engage with because he's not interested in what we have to say or listening to us. So I at least, I blocked him, and I just stopped going into his hangouts, and I stopped talking to him, and I stopped, for the most part, talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he just moved on to other people. So, I mean, I understand it's really frustrating to have people accuse you of somehow not being, a true Christian, or
no, it's not that.
Or more serious things too,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, actually, for me, that is a really serious thing. But other things too about private matters or whatnot.
Yeah.
But after a certain point, if you just sort of stonewall him, he'll go away, and that's true of most people.
We're now in April. We are now in April, and if you remember back in December, the promise was made that he was going to go after 2 people for the entirety of this year. And he's been doing that.
Right, but have those people, and the details I guess are unimportant to me. But have those people been at all either responding or being involved in anything that he's doing, or commented on anything that he's doing? Because again,
yes.
I think, well, that's my point. I think G-Man feeds off
Carlton, let me just say this.
attention.
Yes, I responded when he accused me of having an extramarital affair in public, online. Of course I responded.
Yeah. Well, hold on. If I can, Fiona, yeah, he was being a bit of a dick there, but we all knew that he was lying. We knew immediately that it was not true, and he was just trying to get everyone's goat. So
yes, the people within this community knew that. The people within this community knew that.
I mean, it's even that's here nor there, right? I mean, I think, Carlton, the problem here is not necessarily that it takes 2 to tango. Like, I think we agree that without response, G-Man would sort of wither up and die or move on to the next victim, you might call.
Right.
But G-Man is confrontational, and I think that's really the key to it. I mean, G-Man wants to go to war with someone, and oftentimes it can seem a little overwhelming, and he's just begging for a response, right? And I think when it's that, when someone seems eager to have responses, and then despite the fact that he appears upset when he gets responses, I think it's a little weird to start saying that, like, what he's begging for and what it appears he's desiring is somehow immoral for us to provide for him, right? I think it's very strange.
I didn't say it's immoral for us to provide it, John. I think what I meant by that was I think it puts the person who is then making. I'm not picking on anybody here, but excuse me, but I think it takes the person who then comes up with some horrendous caricature of G-Man, let's say, as part of this battle. Well, I think they've lost the high ground. I think I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but I think you kind of lose the right then to complain about the battle if you participate in it. Because I don't think, at least for me, this is not. I don't want to say it's not real life. That's not what I mean either. Because I think even if it was real life, even if it happened in a coffee shop, right? I think clearly I should have the capacity to get up and to walk out and to ignore it. I think once I engage in it, then I really can't. I think I lose the right to complain about it at that juncture. Now I'm hesitating. I'm babbling a little bit because I'm thinking, well, there is probably something to be said for self-defense as well. And maybe the people that are in that position feel that they have a need to correct either the misrepresentation or to defend their own integrity, or whatever else was
Sure.
challenged.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be hesitant to lose the right to response if we suddenly start walking on eggshells around people, and I think especially when it appears so continuous and perseverant. I mean, G-Man is one of the more I would say one of the more spirited and energetic apologists online.
That was nice. That was nice.
That was probably the nicest description I could think of. And I think it's it's one of those things. I mean, G-Man is I mean, that sort of energy and enthusiasm. It either turns people on or turns people off, and I think it gets people excited either way. I think it doesn't leave you in a neutral state, and it's difficult to blame people for responding when someone so enthusiastic, directs their energy at them.
But I mean, but in all fairness, if people aren't complaining about it. So the person complaining about it is G-Man. G-Man goes out, kicks the hornet's nest. The hornets come out, they sting him, and then he bitches about it. Like the people that he's calling out aren't,
Right.
they're just reacting. He's the one that's bringing it on himself. That's why he's in the
But
architect.
that's why we need to ignore him.
Well,
That's the whole reason we need to ignore him, because he's doing it all for the attention.
Sure. I
So
mean,
if
I
we
didn't want to get
stop
into it, but I mean, G-Man
Yeah.
wants someone to persecute him, right? I mean, it's part of his complex, and it lets him know he's doing a good job. And when that's the case, I think he goes out of his way to give people opportunities to persecute him, and that might be something subconscious that he's doing, but it's pretty clear he leaves himself quite open to it.
I think it's also, I think there's also a point to here that I think our I don't want to say how to say it the right way, but I think we need to take into consideration the credibility of the person that's doing the accusing. So if Ozzy, right, or Floyd were to come out and say something horrible about me, I was having extramarital affairs, I would feel a need to defend myself, because I believe that Ozzy and Floyd have credibility on the internet. People are going to hear them, and they're going to hear it seriously, and so I feel I have an obligation there to defend myself. I think, on the other hand, I had a person, and I won't name his name, a while back, who on a live hangout called me a pedophile. Now, this person, I don't think, has any credibility in the community in general. So for me, at least at that juncture, to go out and defend myself would almost actually be hurting my own case, because I don't think he had any credibility, and I wasn't about to give him any credibility by getting up in a soapbox and protesting about it. 'Cause I think anybody that knows him would have just, said, yeah, idiot, and just moved on.
Well, everyone on our side of the fence, rationalists, skeptics, yeah, we know better than take. I know who you're talking about, but I'll also not.
Yeah, don't say.
I know not to take them seriously either. However, among his own group, that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if it seems like it's unnecessary, like you shouldn't bother talking to him, keep in mind that there are people who are far more gullible, but are still able to accept sound reasoning, especially if it's very, very strong. So. It's still important to engage from time to time people who we think have no. I mean, G-Man, of course, his credibility is nil with anyone with an IQ over about 3.
Right, and so the people who have an IQ, do you care about reaching the people with an IQ of 2? Really?
Well, I think they can still be reached, even if it's more difficult.
Okay, maybe a different opinion. I'm like, who cares? I mean, when you're that far down the scale, maybe there is somebody below G-Man that thinks G-Man is telling the truth. Why would I let that faze me?
Well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is trying to convince the person you're talking to. The other person is trying to convince the people who are watching you talk to that person.
Where are you at?
And so I think there's still benefit to discussing things with people who have no credibility, because people will see it, and they will get, okay, I have another reason not to take that person's views seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I mean, I can see that. I'm not saying there's not more than one way to come at it. I guess for me, I don't worry about the people watching it, because I'm like, if anybody has half a brain, anybody watching it's going to realize this person has no credibility, and it's not going to take me to say anything to demonstrate that. All I got to do is listen to him talk for 5 minutes. But I guess that's my opinion. Hey, by the way, I want to say congratulations on getting engaged.
Thanks, Carl.
You're welcome.
Yes, congratulations.
Glad you said yes.
What?
I mean, it's still on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just check. Okay. Excellent.
I do want this kind of a slightly off topic. It's on G-Man, but it's slightly off topic. Why is it he cannot make a 2 or 3 minute video? It's always 30 minutes, 27 minutes, 45 minutes. He's got a rant on, and he says the same thing 37 times, and each time he's like, say it once, cut your mic.
JD, I can answer that question for you by asking you another question. We're going to take up Freud's Socratic method here. Why is it that I can't give less than a 30-second answer? I have the same problem G-Man has.
He's thinking out loud. He's just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, like, okay, I think I've made the point. I can.
You did.
Or you can go back into it and be like, edit this up, and go, all right, I can cut that. Well, I can take that 37 minutes out and that 20 minutes, and okay, I got -3 minutes left. I think I'll put that up. That's how much important information I mentioned during that little bit. I do love how he's like, I'm gonna own this and that and this and that. You knockout blow, like, you fucking child.
No.
But it's entertaining. It is entertaining. I'm entertained by it. I'm entertained doing it. And as I think it was Metal Slug said, hey, profit.
If you're making money on it, I can't argue with that.
Did you see the video he made?
Oh yeah, it was hilarious, JD. You got totally owned for admitting you were wrong.
Yeah. Do you like the Price is Right theme the guy made? Was it Metal Slugs? Yeah. Like my whole family has watched that like 30 times now. Probably most of his views because I keep. My son is showing his classmates. They're all dying laughing. I only think he's done is because he's going to make another 200 videos in atheist community.
I mean, nobody liked my, when he did the chocolate atheist thing, nobody really liked my white chocolate atheist. I really tried that, but it didn't work.
I took a shot for April Fool's, but I mean, it was like...
It's not a white chocolate atheist, white chocolate.
But when he brought out with the chocolate atheist and no true Scotsman fallacy, I mean, think about how many video responses and hangouts and so forth were done, to explain the no true Scotsman fallacy, explain why it's wrong, to explain why it's a bad argument and so forth. I think all those things are constructive.
Well, I don't know who they're constructive with. That's the point, Floyd. Because G-Man certainly hasn't stopped using any of those fallacies incorrectly.
Well, but it wasn't for G-Man, right? I mean, think of
yeah,
all the people who learned. Think of all the people who learned what the no true Scotsman fallacy was because of that.
Yeah, I don't know how many that was exactly. But
there's always new people.
I talked to tons of people who are philosophically illiterate, and they get a logical fallacy from a hole in the ground, and they would have found that information useful. They were like, oh, that's a fallacy. I didn't know that. I mean, a lot of people. I was just at a party last night where with the fam, and most of them were poo-pooing philosophy as useless. Like, yeah, you can't get a degree. I'm like, yeah, I kind of would have agreed with them up until when I started talking to people like Gary Edwards and Ozymandias and other people who are philosophically literate. And I'm like, it's actually, it's not as practical as like an engineering or some other degree, but it's useful to know how to think. It's useful for people to know how to think. I think everyone should take a very basic course in philosophy, or just to scroll through the online stuff on fallacies and some basic critical thinking, and that is useful. Even if it's not as practical, it still has some use.
Right, and I mean, I think on a secondary point, for G-Man, he may not have learned anything, but I guarantee that was one of his favorite times online. I mean, when everybody's talking about him and the mistakes he's made, and he was the topic of conversation for what 5-6 days. I know for G-Man that is probably his most one of the happiest times of his life. So.
Hey, Evidence, you want to chime in on the fun?
Yeah, thanks. I have listened to your hangout. It's pretty good. I watched G-Man's. I think it was G-Man's latest hangout, or his preaching for the choir minister. I don't know. But what seems funny to me is that he was addressing Alex Barton and his and the name and the dog dropping about his name. And I mean. G-Man said, okay, for all of you new listeners, this is what has happened. And he actually said that, okay, this is what has happened about the marathon score and everything about that, and then he actually reveals that Alex Barton has used G-Man's full name in his titles. I mean, and I've explained this to G-Man via Skype that this is quite the Streisand effect. I mean, if you say where to find your full name to new listeners, I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, you deliberately spread the message yourself. That's quite odd to me. I mean, if I had some personal information that I wouldn't want to be revealed, and I say, go there, lift that, look there, go there, and there you found it. I mean, that's quite weird to me.
Yeah, that occurred to me as well.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all I had to say. If no one else wants to give their 2 cents, I'll end it now, and we can all go back to our mayhem, I guess.
Well, I'm sure it's been mentioned a few times, but the fact remains that no one has doc dropped G-Man. Except for, G-Man. G-Man has doc dropped himself. He mentioned he still, to this day, has his name as his Skype account name. It's still on his YouTube account. He still has videos where it's mentioned. And at this point, he's harped on so much the Streisand effect as basically people who are not part of our community know what his name is. And so any attempt to hide it, it's just Rand Cam actually had a point, amazingly. It was like, there's just no point in hiding anymore. It's out there. It's like Madonna saying, how dare you guys know my real name? Well, I mean, you can Google it. It's not really an issue anymore. So it's a fight. It's a pointless fight. He should stop. Well, I mean, if his issue wasn't drama, I mean, he loves the fact that this is generating drama. But the thing is, he actually literally thinks that Alex is trying to get him killed. And somehow in his mind, he said this in a recording that Alex Bodden took of their conversation, where he said that you're trying to kill me, that he's getting the name out so that I think in his mind some local atheist will pick up on it and decide to do Satan's work and go forth to Jersey and kill him. It's not going to happen, but I think that's actually how his mind works.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd admittance because it was a private conversation, which Alex like, well, he's such a douchebag. I'm not going to worry about privacy. I'm just going to put this up online. That he would make that little bit let go, that let the inner workings of his mind, and he is a conspiracy theorist through and through. We are out to get him, and that he honestly believes that. I don't know what to do with a person like that. I mean, if he thinks that mentioning his name, which is widely available, is somehow an attempt to get people to go after him, how many Gary Moores are there probably just in the local area, much less in the U.S.? It's not going to happen. If anyone even cared enough, and no one does.
Oh, you just did it again. Oh.
What'd I do?
You totally doxed him, man. You totally
I doxed him?
Yeah, well, I mean, he certainly didn't help his situation, that's for sure. But again, I don't know. Do you think he actually likes this drama?
Yes.
I mean, I get the feeling like he really enjoys it, and I see sort of the glee that sort of he takes in making the accusation of doc dropping. So I think I worry that he does in fact enjoy it, and that's why I don't necessarily point the finger and say that people doc dropping him is wrong. Although I mean the principle of it is clear that if someone doesn't want their name out there, I don't think we should be putting it out there, at least actively or on purpose. But I think with Gary it's a slightly different situation.
You have to remember though that although a very few people knew his name, it only became well known after he made the false accusation against somebody doc dropping him. Yeah. That's what brought it to prominence. Him making a false accusation and the person having to defend themselves against that false accusation.
Yeah, if I remember, if I remember tomorrow, everyone look forward to my parody video where I will have G-Men have him hunted down like he thinks we are. I hope that should be fun. I'm still going through how to make it funny, but tomorrow morning maybe when I finally get the kids out of the house a little bit.
Yeah, but again, if we can take the high road, I think we should take the high road. Even
Yeah,
though
sure.
there's a nice big red button there, but
No, I'm sorry, Floyd. What red button are you talking about?
not mentioning his name probably, but I mean, G-Man sort of loves this. He loves. Just take G-Man against the world. I mean, for crying out loud, who do you think you are? I mean, against the world. I mean, and he constantly addresses Fiona and Alex Barton, whom he has blocked, and says, I will never talk to those guys again. And JD, I mean, JD is an asshole. I will never address him again. And
whoa.
yeah, and then 5 minutes later,
Whoa.
addressing JD.
Whoa. Fiona, what red button is he talking about?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, he actually loves the drama and the attention. That is my opinion. I've probably made 10 videos about the guy, and he have never addressed one of them, and I've totally destroyed him, like he used to say, in every one of them. But you know, he wants to be associated with Christina Red and all this high profile. I mean, isn't he trying to get Matthew Bellahunty to make videos about him? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
It really is all for subs and views. That's all it is, and it doesn't matter what the collateral damage is. It doesn't matter who he has slandered, defamed, lied about, whatever. It's for the views. And I think that calling him on it isn't a bad thing. Because otherwise he just goes on unopposed.
all right. Well, I think conversation has run its course. I'll end it now. Thanks for everyone joining, and let's all go back to the great debate and have fun. So take care, guys.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay.